Yeah, so today we have some more information around orcs. So I'm going to go through those. Kind of that's the only thing we've got today. So we'll see kind of what we get. So we have two different detachments. The Speedwell one, which is obviously the one very much focused around Wazdaka, new model, and bikes and being quick. So, all about being fast, yeah. Obsession with velocity. It does have one major drawback with the turbo boosters. It says you have to go in a dead straight line, which is fair. Each time a speed freaks or truck unit excluding aircraft from your army advances, it can use its turbo. If it does, do not make an advance. Instead, until the end of the phase, there's a move characteristic of 24 but can only move in a straight line. And until the end of the turn, ranged weapons equipped by this have assault, excellent, but can't charge. So even if you announce the war, it wouldn't bypass this because this says you cannot declare a charge. So you can't get around that. So the designer note: when a unit uses its turbo, the models in that unit cannot pivot either, and they cannot make a move of 2 or more straight lines. And it says, yeah, even in there, they cannot declare a charge, even if another rule would let it. So they've even added that in there to make it clear, because I think people would probably try and argue that in the war, oh, we can charge because that allows us to advance and charge, even though this very clearly states you cannot. Sadly, or gratefully, I guess, it doesn't limit you from having to go straight forward in the direction the bike is facing. Although I feel that a bike doing 24 inches in reverse is kind of against the idea. Obviously more of a narrative kind of concept, but it does mean they can Tokyo drift 24 inches sideways, but they just cannot pivot or move straight forward. So you do kind of have to set this up quite well, because if they are tucked into a ruin or terrain feature, they're not going to be able to go backwards to navigate around it. So do have to think. It does mean that obviously they're going to be able to pump out a lot of shots, but will obviously kind of depend on how many units have speed freak keyword. On bikes, I honestly don't know off the top of my head, but luckily we have access to the codex, so we can kind of check. And I think the only one that I'm slightly worried about having it is the little flying guys, the deathcopters. They do, cool. So they're going to be able to go 24 inches in a dead straight line. So you will be able to navigate around terrain with them because they have fly. So again, it is orc shooting, so it is currently, it's still hitting on 5s, so it's not exactly overly concerning in that regard, but it does mean that obviously they can move block really effectively. Deathcopters, however, are 160 point for 6, so it's not really a cost effective necessarily move blocking unit, but I think even using one of them turn 1 to go bomb, it's like beast cat pack equivalent with a little bit of actual durability, with the 6 up invul and 4 wounds and T6 and 6 of them. It's quite a lot to chew through, and then they can shoot you as well with up to 63 blast twin linked rockets. Again, we'll see what strats kind of impact that, or even the Mega Blaster for the flat 3 shots, but I think the rockets are probably the go-to one, because otherwise they only have their slugger pistol. But yeah, that's not bad. Also, they're not able to use their death from above by doing it because it is normal move locked, thankfully, because that would be kind of tragic. You do then. They've shared more with this than they did yesterday in terms of there being enhancement and strats for this detachment. So a Death Killer Wartrike model only. Each time the bearer uses its turbo, it can move through terrain features. That's really solid. Luckily, cannot charge still afterwards, and it is model only. The bearer can, so you can't attach this guy to a unit of bikes and move them through terrain, thankfully, unless you're an Ork player, then sadly. So that at least there is a slight negative to it. It's okay. Again, they're not really doing a massive amount of damage. Like, they have effectively, with the auto advance, a 36-inch threat range shooting wise. The flamer profile, you know, is kind of cute, but it's only one, so it's like a D6 flamer. So I reckon this will probably be 15-20 points as a kind of an average for that enhancement, which would make it a 100-point unit. Yeah. It's okay. So again, if you bring Wazdaka, which genuinely, if you're running this attachment, I don't know why you wouldn't, because it makes Warbikers battle line with Wazdaka, so it means you can have 36 bikes as an option. One speed freak unit for dead killy construction that has not been selected to fight this phase. Until the end of the phase, they have Lance, and if they made a charge move, so until the end of the phase they get +1 damage. If they haven't charged, Lance won't do anything, so this is a really weird phrasing. It kind of would almost have been better than it had been. They have +1 to wound, so at least you could use it in response to your opponent, but it's even locked to your fight phase, so it's a really weird one. I suppose the only time you could use it where you don't get the Lance is if your opponent heroics, but then you wouldn't get the +1 damage either, so a bit of a weird wording on it. I think they've just decided to make it really focused to avoid any ambiguity about the benefits, I guess. But yeah, so +1 strength, +1 damage on a speed freak unit. So on, say, the Wartrike being damage 3 and wounding anything in the game on 4s, anything below T10 on 2s, pretty solid, excluding -1 abilities. So that's really solid, and being flat 3 damage, very nice, I guess. And then you have special ammo. Your shooting phase, 1 Ork unit from your army that hasn't been selected to shoot. Until the end of the phase, ranged weapons get anti-monster, anti-vehicle 4-up, excluding torrent. So that's, yeah, I mean, that's quite solid. Especially Deathcopters, and any kind of like flash kits even would be really good for this, with their sustained 3 shots each, without being the closest. So in a full flash kit unit, you would have say 9 guys, 10 guys, say 40 shots if they're the closest target, with sustained anti-monster vehicle, AP1, so kind of bypasses cover, so it's quite interesting as a strat there. Otherwise, anything that has vaguely good guns is gonna, or volume of guns, sorry, is gonna kind of love that strat. I like the fact that it does work on anything as well, so that's quite a big advantage to that one. Not given us enough really to kind of work out anything else. Obviously you have the 1 turn of advance and charge natively from Orcs with the War. I don't know whether they'll get an advance and charge strat. The advanced 24 and assault kind of, I think, does lean this build, with the ability working on trucks, does kind of lead you to look at flash kits and the other guys, looters maybe, I don't know, but all of the tank busters, that's the one I'm thinking of. Anything like that can go in a truck is probably going to be pretty good for that reason. War bikers. Was there even their ranged weapon? So they can have a twin Daka gun. It already has assault. Excellent. So it doesn't really benefit them particularly, being able to move really far, other than them potentially for 130 points with 6 of them being able to be a good move blocker. I guess they do get +1 AP if they're within 9, so if a unit is within 35 inches of them, then they would get the ability for +1 AP on their guns. But again, it's so it would be 30 shots with twin linked, strength 5 AP 1. It's cute, hitting on 5s. I don't know. I think again you've more got any of the other speed units. Maybe this is the one that brings the buggies back into being useful. Squig launchers don't really need the advance to shoot with their indirect. The shock jump, the custom shock rifle is 1 shot, but you know, it's effectively a strength 8 AP2 las cannon. I mean, could be quite funny. Hits on a 3, 1 shot, pop up 24 inches and kill a character. Like, the odds are not high, but it is quite funny. Then you have the rockets again, single units, does give them quite a lot of mobility to attack stuff, but hitting on 5s is again the biggest problem. I don't know whether there will be anything that allows for more of this. I think the Mega Track Scrapjet could be quite interesting, where it does have the rocket cannon, because that is D6 +1 shots at flat 3. It's pretty solid, especially if you then add in the anti-monster, anti-vehicle. But again, single model unit, expensive use of a 1 CP strat for 1 model if they were still in their kind of units of 3. But it is a rocket cannon, 2 twin big shooters and wing missiles, so that is a fair amount of damage. And then again, AP1 on the nose drill is very sad given the size of the nose drill, but being a strength 8 does mean wounding game on 4s with the lance strat and +1 damage. Yeah, kind of cute. I think Waz Daka himself is probably likely to be the best thing in the detachment, but I think it's a viable way to kind of explore something different for orcs compared to what they've been playing so far. The next one is Eager for the Fight. Blitz Brigade is the detachment, Eager for the Fight is the ability. Each time an orcs unit from your army disembarks from a transport, they get to reroll advance and charges. Nice. It's an ability. It does allow for you to fail less charges, I guess, and on the war turn helps you to really potentially maximise threat ranges. It mentions, and it really annoyed me because I couldn't find it, and I'm guessing that they're mentioning it and it's another one that will come later. Impervious is a classic way to shrug off powerful shots from dedicated anti-tank, as it makes Titan grade weapons wound on a 2 after a shot on the mech's special source. So I don't know if it's an enhancement or a strat. Doesn't really explain why it would take a Titan grade weapon to wound a battle wagon on 2s. It might be that it's +1 toughness on the on a vehicle after an enhancement. I don't know. I couldn't find it. I don't know whether maybe it is a mech's ability. I have to admit a lot of the stuff is not. No, it's not a mech ability. Check Big Mech. Nope. So I don't know. I don't know whether it's +1 toughness or something, or some kind of weird pseudo -1 to wound if strength is lower than X, but yeah, not very clear as to what it does, unfortunately, but going to be something useful. But they have two strats they have shared, which is use in trouble now, your opponent's shooting phase just after an enemy has shot, one battle wagon, hunter rig or kill rig, so the big transports, not trucks, that was hit by one or more of the unit's attacks. One Ork infantry that was embarked can disembark and make a surge move. Yeah, so that's quite useful. A reactive surge out of the transport. So particularly if they're end of their shooting phase and they haven't got anything in range worth charging, or you want to defend the truck from being pinned by a charge that can't kill a unit of boys, then guys can hop out and potentially end up in combat, or at the very least screen the hell out of the transport. So yeah, pretty useful, and surge moves are always something that then the opponent has to play around, so that's good. Mount up, lads. Really good one. If you are wholly within 6 inches of a transport, they can embark within it at the end of a fight phase. Yep, and it's just transport, so any transport, so they can jump back in a truck. They don't have to have fought either, so that's pretty solid. So you could hop out some whatchamacallits, shooting guys, looters or flash kits, tank busters, shoot the crap out of them, and because it's end of the fight phase, not opponent fight phase, your fight phase, you can do it either one. So you can get them out. If they don't have ranged threats, then you could leave them out as a Overwatch threat, or at the end of yours jump back into the transport hidden behind a wall or a terrain feature and be quite safe. So that's quite useful, and isn't locked to a particular type of transport, so I think that's a very solid strat. Also gives you the opportunity to do the disembark, fail the charge, get back in, not lose the unit from safety, so that's again useful. Or charge into terrain feature or an objective and then hide back into the transport if you don't need to control it, if it doesn't gain you anything point wise, but let's say it stops them holding more, or stops an action, that sort of thing, does at least give you that as a caveat for that one. So that's really solid. I think that's a very good strat. It will be one of those you have to make sure that wholly within rather than just within, so it is one of those making sure you don't roll a 12 for the charge and end up too far away. Yeah, again, I'm not 100% sure. I don't think I don't think this is going to outclass Warhorde, just because the damage output is much higher, but the ability to reroll advance and charges is nice as an innate ability. The get back in is a very good strat. It depends on what other strats and enhancements kind of exist for the detachment, but Warhorde is still better, as has been kind of the case for most of the edition when they've nerfed other detachments that Orcs have had. Yeah, so that's kind of it for today. Tomorrow Space Marines get even more detachments, so 2 more for Space Marines. It'll be interesting to see how they kind of land in the power level. I don't think any of the detachments released today or yesterday, on reflection, are going to massively upset the apple cart. There might be an interaction I haven't seen or people haven't kind of noticed, because quite often that kind of happens. I think Wazdaka as a model is very useful. I don't really think 36 bikes is going to be suddenly the meta competitive. It might be, depending on what else is in the detachment, but in a tank heavy meta they're going to struggle to punch up, maybe. I don't know yet. It will be interesting once kind of the rest of it is out, but it's at least something different, and people I know locally have been looking forward to some kind of Speed Freak-esque detachment, so this kind of hopefully fills that niche for them. And yeah, I think the guard one, the transport one, with the reactive move, is very interesting. It probably won't outdo Grizzled Company or Recon Guard, which thankfully again most people don't want to run Recon Guard because it hurts their soul when moving that many models, even though it is insanely good. I don't think either of these detachments for Orcs, from what we've seen, outclass Warhorde, which again, similar issue for Space Marines for the whole edition, has been Gladius/Gladius 2.0 in Blades of Ultramar has kind of been overall the best detachment because of its flexibility, because of what it gives the army, and leans very heavily into what it's good at. So it'll be interesting to see if either of the ones released tomorrow are remotely competitive, or kind of give you a different way of doing it. So if you have watched, thank you for kind of taking time to visit and see. There will be obviously more tomorrow to talk through with the Space Marine ones. Hopefully we get some more rules for 11th edition, because that now is what I really want to know, some further rules for 11th. Please do like, share, comment, subscribe. Come and check out on Facebook, Voidstorm Games, on Instagram as well. Go have a look at the website. I've got lots of stuff up. There is 11th edition terrain coming soon. There are a few new items available on the store and a few more coming. And there is, within about 5 to 6 weeks, the new terrain set that will be available as well, which looks awesome. As soon as I'm allowed to, I'll share some pictures of what it looks like. And yeah,